Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast, I'm a fan of this person, and I gotta tell you, I'm a little unnerved because he just told me he's a fan of mine, which is always weird to hear. He is the host of the Betting Exchange, new show on MSG Networks. He is also the host of the premier, every statistic that you could find about which is the best podcast about power, the very popular show Power. They all point to his being Power After Hours. He's also a managing producer at Bleacher Report. Jeff Johnson, welcome to the Knicks Film School Podcast. How are you, man?
My man, Macri. I'm on Macri's show. Like I had to go break out my statistics books from college just to make sure that I had my linear regression models locked in. I had algebra, geometry, all the math I had to study up for just to make sure that I spoke intelligently on this show. So I'm ready, man. This is actually really dope, man. You're like one of the main people in terms of the Knicks and now NBA, because we could say, I know you might be humble, but you do all NBA now, but you are Knicks centric. But the world, you cover the NBA world around. So just having your voice in Knicks Twitter from where we were to where we are to where we hope we will be,
where we hope to be.
Right, it's been great. So this is you caught the wave at the right time. I'll put it to you like that. Now keep sailing up. Let's hope we all keep sailing up.
I was about to say, I would like for this team to continue winning for a myriad reasons. But yes, I'll go off track early on. It usually takes me a while, but I'll get right to it because I was doing some research for something earlier today. Do you know that how many times since 1997 the Knicks have had what was it that I found? Top 10 net ratings for 2 consecutive years.
So that's like offensive and defensive rating.
Offensive and defensive rating. It puts them in the top 10. So we're talking since 1997. So about 25 years, quarter of a century. How many times they've done it back to back?
Back to back.
Yes, back to back.
90, 97, 98, and 98, 99.
So it's funny you say that because I immediately was like, it was definitely like 97, 98, 99. They didn't do it back to back those years. I don't even know if they were in the top 10 either of those years. It was 2011, 12, and then 2012, 13. It was the only time.
That was going to be my second one because I know 99 was the lockout year and the surprise because we didn't expect that to happen. So maybe not then, but 97 and 98, I would believe. 96, 97, 97, I would have believed that because I really wish they would have got the shot. If Miami didn't happen, I would have liked to see what would have happened. I would have loved to have seen it. Well, I don't know what would have happened, but I would have loved to have had the opportunity to see what would have happened.
I, too, would have liked to see what would have happened in the 96, 97 season. You are a very popular man these days because you have a lot going on. And one of the things that you have going on is you are talking about the NBA and betting, which is a world that I got to tell you, I'm fascinated by. Mm-hmm. And like for someone who doesn't actually put money down on games because I think my wife would harm me if I put like part of my income on like into like, I think the Clippers are going to cover the spread tonight or whatever.
That's the concession that would break the camel's back.
I think that might be the one. That's like, it's not that heavy. It only takes a toothpick to break it. If you pile up enough on, and God knows I do. But it's a world I'm intrigued in. And I'm just curious to start, like, how did you get into it? Like what interests you about NBA and betting?
So NBA is my favorite sport. Basketball in general is my favorite sport. So I've been an NBA fan for years, I'll say with betting, the cool thing about the betting exchange is that we've created it we want it to be like all levels to enjoy. Okay. Most notably the individual, like someone like you who's just getting in, casual bettor, who you may not really bet on it, but you may want to learn some terms and hear from people who are actual experts do it. So we have a whole range. Like Katie's an expert. We had Minty and Alex on our first 2 shows who are sports experts. We've had Eric Coleman the last 2 weeks, who's an athlete and getting into it as well. And then you have someone like me where my betting is more gambling because I'm a casino
but that's the best
guy.
Kind.
Right. I'm a casino guy. And also I say like I'm a computer science major. So you gotta know math. I'm sorry, y'all. If you found a way around it, I will not hate. But you need to know some type of math. It's just math and statistics and all of that with me. You know, I will tell people all the time who want to listen. You play blackjack to build the money. Shout out to my guy Sean. He put me onto this. You play blackjack to build the money to go risk it all on craps, right? So I just like games of chance. I just like games of chance, right? And with betting, because I've been involved in digital media for a while, you have to figure out what the next waves are and where the most concentration, the untapped resources and potential. And right now, other than gaming, which I can lament on what I would have been if this was when I was a kid. Oh man, I might have been Keanu in the Matrix. Like you might have had to jack in every system into my cerebral cortex, and I would have been a billionaire, bro. I was
about to say it's actually tough for me because I think I'm a little bit older than you. I'm pushing 40. It is actually really difficult for me to wrap my head around where, like, I used to sit with my little controller and play Super Mario Brothers 1 and 2, and I think 3. And like, I think I had a couple advanced systems briefly, but like to where it is now, where there's stadiums to watch this shit. We're getting off topic, but like, it's crazy how this is advanced.
Yeah. So I got a lot of great advice and just what I was seeing that, you know, we need to get involved in betting before everybody's involved in betting. It's funny enough. It's kind of like podcasting. It's kind of like what blogging was before that. You get to the point where everybody's doing it, then you get to oversaturation where the best of the best will be the ones that ascend to the next level. But by that time, you should have been on what you're doing after that. Like, you know, I know y'all are on YouTube as well. So it's like YouTube is one of those things that's institutionalized now where you need to have video. Video is the future, like it or not, right? But you'll have your dedicated people who will listen, just like my podcast. I wouldn't be able to have YouTube if I didn't have the podcast listeners.
Yes.
And there's always going to be listeners who that's how, or auditorily, that's how they get their entertainment. And that's how they want to experience you. So you serve multiple platforms. That's kind of like what I did with media is I wanted to make sure that I was into betting. So because we live in New York, so you already know that betting struggle. We didn't really have mobile betting to even test like that, mobile sports betting. Yeah. So I would just watch, look at lines, study on my own and figure out what all the terms meant. Like I'm not going to be
so you're self-taught basically.
Yeah. Okay. I'm self-taught. I'm not a betting expert. Actually with me, I'm the voice of the fan. I'm the voice of the New York fan in betting.
We have a lot in common then.
Right.
Because like, again, I feel funny whenever people are like, oh, you're an expert on the Knicks. I'm like, I'm not an expert on the Knicks. I just watch the Knicks a lot. I think about the Knicks a lot and I read other people's thoughts about it. Yeah, that's it.
Right. Exactly. So it's so if you want to talk about like betting levels, I would definitely fall somewhere in the middle. Like whatever, if there's a purgatory between novice and intermediate, that is my world. That is like my territory, right? So it's someone who's learning every day. And then, you know, if I feel like going to Jersey to make bets or waiting until the Super Bowl, because February 2022, I believe, is when mobile betting is going to kick in for New York State, right?
Ooh, it's going to be dangerous. Okay.
Yeah, it's very much so. But I just don't know how they're allowing Jersey to get these millions and millions of tax dollars. And I know it must be way more complicated politics, but I just feel like when there's that much money involved.
No, listen, follow the money. I mean, it's an expression that you could apply to any walk of life, and it's going in that direction. Why fight it? I really appreciate what you said though about it's not just getting in first. It's not just being the best. Or being good. And you have to kind of have a little bit of luck in both areas, a little bit of foresight. And ultimately you have to put out a product that people want to engage with. And you have clearly done that. And I think what's nice about sports gambling is even if you're someone like me, who I may not yet, maybe we'll talk to the wife a little bit. I may not be placing a ton of wagers for whatever reason. I like to listen to people talk about it and talk about their experiences and their thoughts about it. There's something about the subject matter that and again, you could probably put your finger on it better than me, that it's just like, it's entertaining for me. I
believe it. You love math. If anybody ever said that you didn't love math, then they'd be
a little bit it.
Yeah. So that's what it is. Cause then you think about what you've done with advanced analytics, right?
Sure.
Advanced stats and whatnot, right? you think in terms of they're not robots. And that's the thing that this isn't plug and play. That's the one thing I could tell you about sports betting. It's not plug and play. We're not robots. If what we're saying is, if you perform to what statistically you say you're supposed to perform, if two teams perform what we expect, predict, then if they face each other, then 75% of the time, Team A should beat Team B.
Yes.
But it's that 25% that makes it interesting when you break it into like spreads, money line, and over-unders and all those things. So you think about it day to day. How much you agonize over a Knicks game and who's going to come off the bench, and depending on the matchup, like is quickly going to have more space, or are they going to focus on him? Then the betting line will say, okay, what's the over-under? For example, what's the over-under on how many threes quickly is going to hit? So if we say you would win 100, you would win double your money if quickly had to hit 3+ threes in a game against, let's say, the Cavs.
Okay.
You're probably taking that every
defense.
time. Let's say what we know. You're probably taking that. Quickly can get 3 threes off.
That's a good bet.
So here, what happens is you'll have the other factors. First of all, there's no injury caveat.
No.
Let's say let's say this one game they just decided to focus on quickly. You probably weren't planning for that, right?
Or let's say Austin Rivers decides to go off for 5 threes in a quarter against the Utah Jazz and quickly standing there just watching him. Like these things
exactly. You don't plan for these things. And the thing about why they say like with Vegas, the house always wins. They can make bets enticing enough for you to say, I think that can happen. Yeah. Let me put my money on it. It's just like you be at the blackjack table. I think if I take one more hit, I could get to 21. And a lot of the odds might say yes, but the thing is, it's similar to batting averages, right?
Yeah.
You think about it. Some of the greatest players of all time hit the ball 3 times out of 10, but they got recorded out 7 times. So you're just hoping that one of those 3 times hits for you.
And that you have made the appropriate wager that is going to make the payoff, significant enough.
Because you can bet any amount, that which is also good. Like you could start off small, and then that's why the parlay bets where it's like you need 12 things to happen consecutively to win, where people will put down $2 and they potentially could win $80K, because the odds of all of those consecutive, and for those who know math and statistics, compounding the averages over and over, it gets to an astronomical odd that you could put down $2 and win like $70K, for example. Those are the most enticing ones I see.
And I wonder, I'm really just thinking about this off the cuff. I wonder so last season, I don't know how you feel. For me, just again, observing the league was so, I don't want to say batshit crazy, but it seemed like every night you would turn on, League Pass or whatever, and there was any number of results where you're like, something is odd here. Like, why is this team so vastly underperforming against this other crappy team? Or, the other way around. And I wonder how many people like just were beating their head against the walls on parlay bets, because that, like, the thing about a parlay, again, you said it, you need them all to hit. It's not like if you make 3 out of 4, 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4, 45. Right. And I just, to me, the NBA in trying to make parlay bets is probably the toughest. That's the toughest thing. But at the same time, like you said, the numbers make it enticing enough, Right.
Football is probably the most fun because it's with basketball, especially throughout the season, early on October, November, people are still trying to get teams are still trying to get their footing, figure out who they are. Then, with load management and punting away games and stuff like that, it can get real funny with it. But with football, every week pretty much matters. So you're dealing with, and you're also dealing with teams, league, division aside, that don't really play each other as much, as opposed to like, NBA, where we might see the Pacers 3 times, or we might see the Heat 2 times or whatever. You don't know, but it's like one game, based off trends, what's going to happen? So that's kind of the way a lot of these folks think about it.
I mean, I know just because I started paying attention to this a little bit into the year, at one point, I should know whether they finished as the best, but at one point the Knicks were the best team against the spread in the entire league.
I remember hearing that they had like a streak where they just kept covering. They kept
my God.
Like win or loss, they just kept covering.
Yes. And I think there was like a 20-game stretch where they covered like 16 or 17 games out of that. I imagine that, well, I'll ask you, how do you, like, to me, the smartest thing to do if you're going to be betting in season just on straight, like, is this team going to cover the spread against this team? Do you think it's smart to like just look for those trends? Like, would you have gotten on the Knicks at some point early last season and then just like kept riding the wave?
I don't like betting against teams. Betting with teams I root for.
Okay, there you go.
I hate it.
Good man.
You can probably blame me for Saquon's injury last year because he was definitely on my fantasy team. And man, I'm sorry. Like Saquon,
I'm not a Giant fan, so I don't mind.
Right. I
there may be one on this podcast.
But I left them alone. I left them alone this season. But yeah, I would say, you know what? As I continue to learn about betting and trends, I don't get caught up in those type of things like, they cover it all the time. That just means that whatever the result was, that they could be on a 5-game losing streak and they're just saying they're going to lose by X amount every week, or they're going to lose by less than what you thought. So like, Let's say the Knicks were -7 against the Lakers, right?
Okay.
That just means that if you take them, you think, oh, they're going to play a close game against the Lakers. So if they lose, they're going to lose by 6 or less, or they may win. So remember when they went on that the West Coast swing streak. There, even that, but like that, the streak that to close out when it was like murderous row, and somehow Tibbs emptied the clip and made sure they made it to the playoffs.
God bless that man.
But that would have probably been a part where they were covering because no one expected them to do that on the road.
No.
So it's like, if you just kept taking the Knicks spread and they went on that streak, that's why you won. So then someone like you who's looking at it a little deeper may say, okay, they've been playing like this. They're playing schemes. What do the Lakers have to deal with? What's coming up? Like, is it an afternoon game? Is it an evening game? Did they get in the night before on the West Coast? Did they get the lag out? Is those 100%. This is where those, like, the major bettors, the sharps, what they call them, like the people who's in the money who do this for a living. That's the type of the level 8 of research that they're doing just to try to figure out something that at the end of the day involves human players and anything could happen.
Well, but it does. But like you mentioned, the Sharks. I remember, when I used to listen to like when Simmons would talk about like guessing the lines and whatnot, they would always note like the line opened at this, and then the sharps like got to it, and then the line immediately moved. And you see this like Super Bowl bet a lot, like it'll open at something and then move. Mm-hmm. I find that stuff fascinating. All right, so you are a Knicks fan, so yes, I feel like it would be only appropriate to go through some of the bets that are on the board for the Knicks, and I'm curious if you disagree with me on any of these, because for me, just me, the juice is not worth the squeeze on any of these. I don't like the odds enough to be able to put down money on any of we'll talk about some individual stuff, then we'll go team. So we got to start with MVP. So I actually was a little bit surprised to see Julius Randle like with his own set of odds for MVP.
Which is respect from Vegas and the bettors to say that he could somehow get in that conversation. Absolutely.
And it is respect. So it is 66-1. So it's plus 6,600. Great odds. I don't like, but this is one of those things where if you know the NBA, you know the history of MVP, you know that your preseason list is kind of like, your 10 or 12 guys who you think have a real shot at it. Like, it's going to be one of those 10 or 12 guys. And usually it's going to be like one of like 3 or 4 guys.
Right.
Are you in on Julius Randle at 66-1?
To me, Julius Randle is kind of like, I don't know if you follow soccer or world football, as our friends, as everywhere else other than us calls it, right?
I'm only vaguely familiar.
Vaguely. Okay. So I don't know if you remember the team Leicester City in the Premier League that came out of nowhere. They were like one of the biggest sports stories that year that won the Premier League. And it would be like, who would be a good NBA comparison? It would be like Memphis in Ja's second year winning the
championship,
NBA title, the NBA title, or maybe even the Western Conference.
Okay,
but title for title, it would be like Memphis coming out that someone that you just did not see that probably were playing for the play-in or the 8th seed. It would be like them winning. You know what I mean? Not even Portland, because Portland would be like kind of like a middle of the road team. This was somebody who wasn't even in the radar. And someone, they had astronomical odds, and some degenerate put money on them and probably retired after that.
I was about to say, God bless that person. It is.
That to me, Julius is like a Leicester City bet to me, because if he wins the MVP, that means something magnificent happened, or terrific, whatever adjective you want to say, like a spectacle occurred that we do not know is going to happen yet.
No. Right. And probably several bad things happened too.
Right.
Several other players who were in the
That's what I'm saying. So it's cataclysm on one side and joy in New York, right? Because he somehow won the war of attrition to win MVP. I don't like that. I remember seeing, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I apologize, but I think like Bradley Beal at one point was the front runner, but those lines moved. Luka's like at plus 400, I think he was last time, or something. Like, he's the leader now.
So he's still, as far as I could tell, he's still the leader of plus 400. Now, notably, I believe he was the betting favorite before last season as well.
Right.
So this is not out of the blue. The only surprises for me, because if you look at, again, the history of the MVP, kind of goes to guys often who have won before, and guys who have won recently, sometimes back to back. Giannis, you could get at 8-1. He's plus 800, and Jokic, I honestly don't think he's good. I get it because Murray's injured and the whole thing. It's plus 1600. There's been a lot of back-to-back winners for MVP. I was just surprised to see the odds that high, but
yeah. I tell you this, Macri, if you're getting 8-1 on Giannis and 16-1, to me, if you're putting 100 down, that's a safer 100 to bet. That's a safe. Like, if you have money that you don't care what happens to it, throw it on Julius. You're not going to see it again. But I would put it on Giannis. I put on. I might even throw something on LeBron. If everything breaks a certain way, I could see the year 19 narrative.
He might have won it.
If they win 60 games, bro, he has it.
If he didn't get hurt, I think the narrative was picking up steam, and then he got hurt, and then the team fell apart. But again, plus 1400, you can do worse.
Harden plus 2000, like that. Like, this is money that you can win. Like that, but that's the other thing that speaks to the league right now, right? There's so many people who we can legitimately say, if XYZ happens, they could win the MVP. And it's not something as astronomical as what might have to happen for Julius. Because he's going to have to clear the Nets, the defending champion, and all those individual players. So they would have to get the 1 seed. First of all, they'd have to get the 1 seed for him to win MVP. One or two. If two is the Nets, I mean, if one is the Nets, two, I'd say that. Or even if it was top 3, and let's say the difference was 1 game, 2 games. I can't. You can't fathom that, right?
No. I mean, look, I would
realistically.
I am Mr. Kool-Aid. I don't even know if I have that much in my pitcher. Slightly better odds. A guy who finished third in 6th man of the year last year. Derrick Rose, longer odds this time around. He's tied for 5th. He's plus 1600. So again, you're getting 16-1 odds for the guy who, like, if he was in New York for all of last year, probably wins it. Maybe wins it. I don't know. It's a weird situation with Elfrid. Like, again, do I like it enough to put money down? I don't think so. But, like, again, it's pretty good odds.
Those are good. Like, if you told me as a Knicks fan, which one would I bet? Like, from what you just, those two so far,
I bet Rose
every time. But 100%. 6 man to me, and you tell me if I'm wilding, John. I think six man is the one that you don't really see coming. I mean, Lou Will kind of retired himself in it, right? Like, Lou Will doesn't really get considered anymore. With Jamal Crawford ain't around, you know what I'm saying? Like there was people who usually staples in the award. Kuzma, you got to consider because he's a previous winner, but I feel like someone else will emerge.
I think that's one where someone emerges, and then to me, the one where it's like, and I might have to bring in Andrew for this one, where you're just throwing shit against the wall and you're hoping something sticks, is most improved player. So obviously Julius won last year. I think Andrew.
Yeah, he did. Goddamn right he did.
About that.
So Jeff, here's the deal. So early in the year, we had no idea if this is real, right? I started looking at the odds, and I just made the calculation that if this is real, Julius plus 5,000 to win Most Improved Player.
When were those beginning?
This was early February last year. So I was like, listen, if this is real, those are great odds.
That was after
I even
All-Star
break? It was before he had been named an All-Star. So
that's right.
We're talking a month into the season. And I listen, for people on this podcast that are tired of me talking about this bet, listen, okay, you don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, this is where my math came in and my expertise came in. The two of you and your worlds combined, and it happened. But it was a calculation, and I looked ahead, and obviously it worked out. I even hedged it with RJ, because people started to chatter of maybe RJ Barrett's actually the Most Improved Player. And I had him at plus 10,000. So
yeah. And so this was even before he got announced as an All-Star that it was plus 5,000.
Once the All-Star stuff happened, it was down to like plus 350. And then the 9-game winning streak, it was over. He started doing like a press tour with Woj on his pod. And it was like, oh, maybe Julius Randle is actually the MVP. Okay. So then I knew Most Improved Player is done.
You know what that was to me, Macri? That's like when you see the person at the blackjack table that has like 3 and 5, then they flip 2, then they flip 3, then and we're inching to 21, and they like, all right, I know I shouldn't. This is like the 10th card. I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to, and they hit 21. That's that's the joy that I feel for you right now, man.
Can I give you the baseball one that ended my luck? Like my streak officially ran out.
What did you pick?
So Jacob deGrom, right? Like New York Met great. Yeah. I had him to win the MVP at plus 1,300. And for half the season, he was the best pitcher I've ever seen. Because what he was doing wasn't human. So clearly the human side of him was like, yeah, you're not supposed to be able to do this. We're not letting you throw the rest of the year.
Oh, man. So. That wasn't a bad bet.
Oh, no.
He was immortal. All he needed was run support.
You also mentioned the fact that like betting with your teams, I touched the money. I bet with my team. And then as a result, the whole sky came falling down. I will say, if I can counterpoint your don't bet with your teams, I'll be betting against my New York Jets the rest of the season. A very safe bet, I think anybody can make going forward. That would be my advice.
I think you're allowed to do that. I don't know. I like RJ Barrett this season at plus 3,000. I think that's like, personally, I think I like that a little. I like it definitely more than the Randall at plus 6,600
for MIP.
For Most Improved Player, yeah.
Okay.
And then I even like it a little bit more, I think, than Derrick Rose. I don't know, unless Andrew sucked all the juice out of the Most Improved Player juju for the Knicks, which is possible.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think, because we can say with some level of confidence that narrative has a factor in every individual award, right? Narrative has a factor.
Yes. But I think you could argue it has more of a factor in this particular award because it is so vague and no one knows what the hell to make of it. Like, what does it mean to be like, anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
So then my follow-up is, do you think national media is going to give that narrative to RJ Barrett? That's why I wouldn't put my money on him. I mean, the rookie of the year thing. What was the next thing that he got? Was it that he didn't make the?
He didn't make the all-rookie team.
The all-rookie team.
Either all-rookie team. We should say.
All these lists where there's top 10 of something, and he ends up at number 11.
No, but see, there's the narrative. There's the narrative. He has been underestimated and shunned in the whole thing since the moment he came into the league, and now. But again, how high do the Knicks need to finish for him to be in this conversation? Because I think here's the narrative. He is the second best player on the X best team in the league. If they're the sixth best team in the league and he's like establishes himself as the second best player on the team, then there's a case.
Right.
That is that going to happen? I
feel like at times people who cover basketball want him to be something that he's not. Like they want him to be something that he's not, or that he hasn't been yet. And his trajectory, because I'm like, if this type of stuff was around someone like Giannis back in the day, what would we have said? You know, because I think when Giannis first came out, everybody was like, he's a project, but he kept developing, and then one day we woke up and this guy's a problem.
Well, but, you saw
RJ doesn't get that same
promise,
thing. Yeah. I would put. I would say that's I'm sorry. I would say that that is a better bet because it's all a gamble in that category. Yeah. I feel like it's all a gamble. So if you're gambling, why not?
If you're gambling,
if you're going to say, I think that if RJ takes the next step, he's at least going to be top consideration for the award. Why not? Why not put money on it and see what happens?
I'm with you. I will not be putting money on the favorite for NBA Coach of the Year. That would be Steve Nash in Brooklyn. I would go ahead and light that money on fire if I had won it.
What do you think? You think if they finish top seed in the league, he gets it automatically?
I don't even know how to wrap my head around what is that narrative. Your second, well, I guess now your third best player came out. What was it, before last season, right? And said, we don't have a coach. Mm-hmm. Steve Nash, you're not, like, he didn't say this, but like, Steve Nash, you're not the coach. We're all whatever the fuck he meant, communal coaches of this team, right? So you have that, but at the same time, and talk about speaking it into existence, if he keeps this thing on the straight and narrow this year with the nonsense going on with Irving, and we don't need to get into that, but like, if he keeps the shit moving in the right direction, again, it's all about the narrative. There's your narrative.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be a coach. He has to be a manager. Like, you get what I'm saying? If he can manage that team to where they need to be and handle all of the moving parts, egos, whatever you want to call it, I even feel like he's not even looking for that. He's just here to manage the team and get the most out of them as a player, a coach who used to be a player, who knows how to run a team as a point guard. He's just like, bro, let's go out and play ball. Let's see what happens. If he gets the coach of the year, I feel like there's probably a part of him inside that's like, I want to be respected as a coach too, but I don't think his ego is that huge to push that on the rest of the squad, which is why
he can't have an ego. That's why he's there. They needed a coach for this team that had like zero ego. Whereas with the Knicks, I think they actually needed someone who's like, no, I'm the guy who could come in and get this done. Mm-hmm. So perfect transition. So Atlantic Division odds right now. See, this is why I would push back against Nash. They're minus 225 to win the division. It's like your odds on favorite. Sixers are second at plus 280. Celtics. I'm not surprised the Celtics are ahead of the Knicks here, plus 1200. I'm surprised they're essentially half as good odds because the Knicks are plus 2,500. So they're essentially telling you that they think it's twice as likely that the Celtics are going to win the Atlantic Division as it is the Knicks.
Yeah.
So 25-1. Here's the argument. And it's not an argument anyone is going to want to hear, but here's the argument. They make a trade. And we know the type of trade that I'm talking about. But like, come on. It takes one Lillard? Net superstar to get
Lillard.
Hurt.
You talking Lillard or?
I think that's if Portland starts out like I know there's not odds on like when will Dame get traded, but like if Portland starts out, 5-15, I'm not saying they will, but like if they did, red alarm bells would be going off everywhere, and like if they did pull that, putting aside whether it's in the best interest of the franchise or not, if they did pull that off, like, aren't they in the conversation? I don't know. Maybe.
First of all, it's hard for me to care about the Atlantic Division anymore with the way it was restructured. How we care about more of the conference now. Like, very good. I don't want to see another banner in Madison Garden until it's a championship banner. You know what I mean? I used to love them when we had the goal of winning the championship, and I don't want to see any more banners, right? But
I agree with you.
I would have to ask, how do you look? And this is part of the betting psychology too, right? We have these conversations. There's no way the Celtics could finish above of the Knicks. If you objectively look at their off seasons and with the team that they have and the team that they have now, you can probably make cases, but double.
That's why
that can entice you to say, I know the Knicks are going to do X, Y, Z. So you try to think. This is part of like my ongoing education into betting, right? Why would it be half as much, right? Or 12-1 versus 25-1.
Exactly.
And I would say one. They think that the midnight is going to strike on the Knicks and we're going to turn into pumpkins, right? That's the biggest one. They cannot replicate that again. So if they may be like a game off, but they're not going to win the division because they can't replicate that again. That to me is probably the biggest narrative. People need to see it happen twice for them to start really putting that confidence in the Knicks. That's the only thing I could think of because
I agree with you.
They literally got Fournier, got Kemba, their team is pretty much solid. They have a whole new coach. Brad Stevens is the GM. I feel like the Knicks legitimately got better.
Yep.
And the only question, really the question mark is the same question mark a lot of teams are coming into is injuries, right? Rose and Kemba, yes.
I was about to say it's a bigger question with the Knicks because their point guards are both 31.
So you can see kind of the psychology, but to me, it's like double, like 12 versus 24. I don't know if that's gonna shake out like that. I just hope that they can prove people wrong again.
I hope so too. And if anybody out there is listening, I will pop my gambling cherry if you run a betting website and you could give me odds on the Knicks to finish second in the Atlantic Division. I'm not saying I'm picking it yet, but I want to see the odds. That's all. I would like to see.
Because what is Philly gonna like? Is Philly that good without Ben? Because Ben Simmons, all the report. You tell me, NBA reporter. It sounded like it's a wrap, right?
I just pulled it up. I pulled it up 2 minutes before you came on. I'm like, you know what? Before Jeff comes on, I said to Andrew, let me just pull up the odds on Ben Simmons' next team, and I pulled it up because I'm like, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I don't see how they're going to trade him. He's never going to play another game for the Sixers. That much is obvious. I guess the thing that I'm wondering is if you're Daryl Morey and you really don't think much of any of the packages that are available out there, I kind of think there's a chance he tells Ben Simmons, okay, go take your ball and go home. We'll call you when somebody offers a deal that we like, but like, what's going to change in a month or 2 months or 3 months? Like that's the gamble. And like, if you're Morey, are you okay with Philly, missing out on whatever talent you're going to be able to get for Simmons? Now that's what I don't really know. But I don't know what do you expect to happen with Ben?
I think the current odds, it was,
you want me to give them to you?
Yeah, please. So
I can't remember off the top of my head. Timberwolves are plus 250.
Right.
Rockets and Kings are both plus 500. Warriors plus 600.
Mm-hmm.
Blazers, which they're not trading Dame for him right now. I don't know, maybe in time, plus 650. And then everybody else is plus. The Raptors and Spurs are plus 1,000.
Aren't the Spurs in like 10-1 or something like
plus
that?
Plus at that, exactly. You hit it on the head. Spurs at plus 1,000.
Was talking about that. I remember last week or whatever we were talking about that just in general before. It didn't make the show, but it was something to consider. I would, the Timberwolves, shout out to my guy Barfs, who's from Minnesota, big Timberwolves fan. He has this plan where they're going to have D'Lo and Cat and all their people and
Edwards and Simmons.
And like, that's what he would love to happen. But I don't know how he gets there. The only way I like the Rockets because will Morey just say, fuck it, we'll take John Wall. At least we know he'll play.
Oh boy.
And at least we'll know he'll shoot. We're going to lose something. We're going to lose something on defense that you're going to lose regardless. But you're getting someone who can play NBA basketball. I'm not saying it's the best thing, but when you're trading in items, you can't really be a beggar, especially in this situation.
Well, no, but it's interesting you say that because like John Wall, physically, what is he? Not what he was. He was also on whatever his numbers last year were. They were really bad. He was very inefficient. He was not good at the rim, the whole thing. He was playing on the worst team in the league. I understand he didn't necessarily help them become better than the worst team in the league, but he was playing on the worst team in the league. May he have a little bit more left in the tank? And if the Rockets are going to throw in several picks over the course of time, but again, do they want to do that? Same thing with Minnesota. Like if Minnesota is going to throw a bunch of their own firsts on the table to make whatever crap offer with, Mikal Beasley and whoever else enticing. I don't know. It depends on what Daryl Morey wants. I just,
do you think they're good enough without Simmons to be better than the Knicks?
That's a great question. This is
you can save it for the newsletter. Save it for the newsletter.
No. I mean, it's this is one of those things where I have to be honest, and the honest answer is I would say no. I think if you just give me a team with Embiid, Tobias Harris, Maxey,
Seth is still with them, right?
Yes, Seth is still there. I think they have some other, they're not the deepest team in terms of like real high quality NBA players, but Doc's a good regular season coach, regardless of what he is or he's not in the playoffs. And like it comes down to Embiid. Embiid was going to be the runner-up for MVP, or he was the runner-up for MVP last year. He might have won the thing if he had stayed healthy, but you got his health issue. I don't know. I think I would give the Knicks a puncher's chance to finish ahead of them if you just took Simmons out of the equation altogether. But as currently constituted, I think I'd still take Philly.
Okay, and they've been a team for a while. They've been together. They have the better player. I get all of that.
Yeah.
But I not even on the head to head, because I definitely understand what you're saying about like the regular season. And this is the other thing when I'm thinking about the regular season, I don't know what Tom Thibodeau thinks about the postseason. I know he's a great postseason coach. Like he does his thing, but he cares about every single game.
Every single minute of every single game.
You know what? Yes. And that's really my concern. My concern, Macri, is that I hope he can find balance. You know, I know we've been saying it because I raise my hand and say, I do think, and feel free to put me on if I'm not seeing something. I think that the minutes narrative is valid to a point, but I don't think that's the reason why they lost to Atlanta. I don't think that they ran out of gas, especially with these younger guys that can eat the minutes.
Derrick Rose ran out of gas. Some people
ran out of gas?
Derrick Rose, visibly ran out of gas, but he
they had somebody. Yes, we know why. I don't know if it was the minutes in the time period. I'm talking about throughout the whole time, right? But I think just for this era,
yes.
You have to, they can't be playing 40 minutes a night, man. They can't.
I think I'm going to be very, and I admittedly make excuses for Tom Thibodeau early and often.
Yeah.
And I will continue to do. I like him. He's my sort of coach. I will be interested to see what happens this season, because I think there was something very important to establishing a tone, and I'm going to use the word establishing a culture last season, which is like, if you're the best guy, you're going to be on the court for me. And that's my first priority, my second priority, my third priority. It's every priority.
It's old school.
But again, it was old school out of necessity. I think out of necessity, because they needed to establish that tone and just set things from year one. Now we're into year two. Now I feel like, I'm not saying to just be lax generally. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you have a deeper team. You have a better team. You have, just to put an X's and O's slant on it, you have other shot creators. You don't need to run every offensive possession through Julius Randle. So those things, I think, have to factor into his decision-making, putting aside the fact that I think it's in the best interest of the organization to play Obi Toppin more minutes.
Yes.
We'll see. I think it's valid. I will be watching it this year, and in particular, I'll be watching it with Kemba. Like, what's the plan for Kemba?
I love the press conference when he was like, he's playing, and the fact that everybody was laughing because he might be serious, he might be telling the truth, and it might be joking.
He's a crazy person. We don't know.
We don't know, which is, and I think he likes that we don't know. But I would love to see a situation where it was like Kemba Rose, even split, and whoever's playing the better game. Yeah, that's all we need, man.
You nailed it. Give them, so what's 48 minus 5? 20, speaking of math, so 43. So 21 and a half minutes apiece, if you want, 21 and a half minutes apiece of the or whatever. 20,
depending on who's doing well,
and then the last 5 minutes, okay, who's had the better game, and whatever you need to do to make it so that whoever you leave in doesn't run out of gas. I'd be fine with that. I think Kemba would be fine with that. I think Derrick Rose would be fine with that. We'll see if they do it. I don't know.
With options, that's the name of the game this season. They have options for the first time. So
what world is this? I don't know. All right. You have been incredibly generous with your time. I am really excited to watch you this year and to follow you. And I think this may have pushed me over the edge. I think I'll discuss it. I will set a limit, a reasonable limit with my better half, and we will.
I'll tell you, Mac, was something that could work, right? It's kind of what I do, and I would suggest for everybody who does this, who recreationally gambles in casinos. You put aside money. That is your gambling money.
That's your gambling money.
There's no other money. You could even set aside just in case I have one good play money. That is your total.
I like it.
Once it's done, go enjoy Vegas. There's a whole part of Vegas that you don't even know about, old Vegas, that the residents know about. Like, go enjoy Vegas. Go to a party. Spend your money there. But gambling money is gambling money. It is not that serious to put. You know, we always hear the like jokes about people throw away their house, and their car and all of that.
Yeah, that's not going to be happening.
Real, because you think people get thinking that the next one is going to hit, this one is going to hit, that one's going to hit. If you don't have any control, play the slots. Play the slots like my mom and other parents do, and let that be therapeutic. But just set aside a certain amount, like you, Macri, like, yo, even if it's like, hey, 100 a month, I'm gonna break it up 25 a week.
A taste.
What happens? Play the craziest thing you could play and see what happens.
$25 on Julius Randle, 66-1.
Why not?
Let's get after it.
Why do I see this ending like Uncut Gems?
Right. This is how I win.
Yeah. All of a sudden, we're wondering why John's not on the post game tonight, and it's because he's got the opening tip. Will RJ get a steal?
That would actually be hilarious if you had an Uncut Gems play for one game, like a live, like people don't got to really put in money, but something like that would actually be really hilarious.
Andrew, just letting you know, I put all of the podcast money on this game against the Cavaliers tonight.
They have to win the tip. Mitch has to win the tip. Yeah, that'll be good times. Okay, before I let you go, of course, Jeff, can you let the folks at home one more time know where they could find you? Yes.
I'm on all social media at Jeff J Says. On the Betting Exchange, Thursdays, 5:30 on MSG Networks, where in tri-state area. I think we get it in Delaware and parts of Philly too. And it'll be on YouTube also after. So we're building something good. We want to be New York's home for sports betting. And no matter what level you're at, come through. We're all learning every day too, along with our experts to help teach us, and we can be educated on this. If you know about the game but don't know about betting, this is perfect for you, because you can join up with us and have some fun. And I appreciate being on the show, man. I feel like I'm in your podcast live, like when you do your lives after the games and in the newsletter. I feel like I'm in the Matrix just watching Morpheus work. So but seriously, man, like all of us in the Rational Knicks Twitter, and everywhere, appreciate what you do. I speak for them. I appreciate what you do. You definitely have emerged as one of those voices and people that we could count on to at least, might not agree on all the stuff that you say, which is healthy for debate, but
I don't agree with half of what I said.
Passionate, informed opinion that's devoid of narratives of what's happened in the past and focusing on what's happening now. So I appreciate that.
I got to cut you off now because you're making me blush. No, seriously, this was a lot of fun. It won't be the last time.